Hello guys, welcome back. Today we're talking about Nikon cameras and budget Nikon cameras, but not this Nikon budget camera. This will come in a future video, an even more budget Nikon camera. If you're looking for a fully functional Nikon SLR camera, stay tuned and we'll take a look. Hello, welcome back. Matt from SLR.com. Today I have a new camera for you, new to me camera, and very excited because it ticks so many boxes in terms of getting close to the perfect camera in my mind. So today we're looking at a very unpopular, seemingly unknown to many people by the looks of it from the price, Nikon FG-20. So this is even more budget than the Nikon FG itself. So what is the Nikon FG-20? This is obviously a 35mm SLR film camera, and it was released in the same era as cameras you may have seen on this channel before. Cameras such as the Nikon FE2 and the Nikon FM2. All of these cameras were around kind of in the mid 1980s. Both of them do exactly the same job, but this one costs a lot more than this one. And I actually prefer this one. So in this video we'll go through the basic spec of this camera and then also compare it to some of the more mainstream cameras which you're probably more familiar with. So the Nikon FG-20 followed the Nikon FG but has even fewer features than the Nikon FG, which in turn has fewer features than the Nikon FM and FE2, which are cameras I shared recently in a video. I'll link that video below if you've not seen it. So in terms of level of Nikon cameras or SLR film cameras from Nikon, you have your professional line, which is things like the F2, F3, F4, F5, F6. I've reviewed the F5 and I can link that video below. And I've got the F4 and I still need to review that video. Then you have mid-range Nikon such as the FM, FM2, FE, FE2, FM3A, things like that. There are many models, but they're some of the ones that I've used or have. And then if you go to the very bottom, you have entry-level Nikon such as the EM, FG and FG-20, to name kind of a small number of the many models that are around. What made me pick the FG-20 over the FG? For most normal people, you probably prefer the FG because the FG offers aperture priority and program mode. As I never use aperture priority or program mode, I went for the FG-20 for the main reason it's lighter than the FG. And if we want to crunch a few numbers quickly, the weight of the FG-20 is 440 grams, and that makes it one of my lightest film cameras of all my film cameras. I think it's a similar weight to some of the Binac Leicas, which I talk about on this channel quite a lot. So 440 grams for the FG-20. If you want aperture priority and program mode, you could get the FG, which is 490 grams. Then if you want even more features, you could get the lightest of the FM, FM2, FE, FE2, which is the FM2 being the lightest of the four, which is 540 grams. So this is 100 grams lighter than my FM2 and does exactly the same job. It just misses a few features. If you're not a Nikon shooter and you want to get kind of the equivalent in terms of lightness from a different manufacturer, maybe you're a Minolta shooter, you could get the Minolta X300, which I have here. This is 470 grams, 440 grams. So the Nikon kind of just pips it, and it is slightly nicer built, the Nikon versus the Minolta. But again, both cameras are fully functional. The reason I'm choosing to go more on the Nikon route is because I have a lot of Nikon glass from when I used to shoot with Nikon. So it makes sense to have bodies to use my existing lenses. I won't go through every button on the camera, but I can quickly show you. You have your shutter speeds, say from bulb up to 1,000th of a second, which is the same as the Nikon FM, with a flash sync speed of 1/90 and also a manual shutter speed of 1/90. That basically means if you don't have a battery in the camera, you can still shoot at 1/90 all day long. So it's a really good mid-range shutter speed to have if your batteries die on you. If you look at the base plate, this camera, like many of the cameras like this, takes two of the LR44 batteries, the coin batteries. Here you can see the M90, which means manual. Exposure dial, shutter advance, and then you have your ISO settings on this side, and if I turn it around it's probably easier to see your rewind crank. You have a hot shoe on the top. For me, when looking at the smallest camera, this is lighter than a Olympus OM, and it has a hot shoe, and not all Olympus OMs have a hot shoe. I was trying to weigh up all the possibilities, and this one ticked more boxes than many. To load the films the same as on every Nikon SLR, I think, lift up, pop the back, and I think it's the same as every other camera. That's pretty much all the features. Oh, self timer. Maybe useful if I ever want to do any, if I go and do some selfies in the lockdown, I might have to resort to selfies. The viewfinder gives 92% coverage, which is slightly less than I think it's 93% of the Nikon FM and Nikon FE cameras. And obviously the F5 gives 100%, so if that's important to you, maybe not this camera. But for me, I shoot portraits, so the edges of my frames generally are not important. And if I wanted to be really kind of weird and wacky, I could use a rangefinder external viewfinder for, say, a true 50mm, in this case, composition. If I wanted to do, say, landscapes or really accurate compositions, I could have a 50mm finder on an SLR camera, which I'm sure that's probably completely unheard of, and I'll probably get some comments saying I'm strange below, but I just thought I'm quite practical with all this, so that gives me 100% coverage. So that's how I would do it in this situation if I wanted to see 100% of the viewfinder, but I probably won't bother. The FG-20 has a center-weighted light meter, and it's a little bit similar to the FE-2, where if you can kind of visualize, if you've ever seen the FE-2, if you've not seen the video below, because I do like a zoom in of the light meter, it's got the needle design on the left-hand side of the viewfinder. So yeah, my new favorite camera. Now, if you think this is a bit slow, you might be like, it's not as good as the Nikon F5 that he showed us, where he's like, and like machine gunning the whole screen. Well, wait 1 second. So if you think F5, are you ready? Here we go. Yes! We have the power. So what I have now is a Nikon FG-20 with a motor drive. This is the MD14 motor drive. If you can see that. You can have it on high power, low power, and it also, I believe, rewinds your film. Yeah, there's a rewind button, I think, here. Now, don't mark me down for this, but the grip is really comfortable and it's a really nice weight. And you're like, what the hell? He's just bought this camera because he wants a lightweight camera, and now he's telling us that it's really nice with the grip on. The grip is so comfy. So my plan is, if I'm shooting in the UK, I'll shoot it with the grip on. It came with the camera, so it's like, why not? And it's just, it's really nice. It is very Nikon 5-esque. It just hangs in that. It's not quite as grippy in terms of the cover. I won't oversell it. The Nikon F5 kind of sticks to your hand, but it's so much nicer to hold than, say, the FM FE without the grip. I know you can get grips for most cameras, but really loving this grip. So my plan is, in the UK, where weight is not an issue, shoot it with a grip, and then I can just be like, I probably won't because it's too expensive, but it is pretty cool. And then, so I could even drop the batteries out. Say I was shooting in London and I didn't want the weight, but I didn't mind a bit of extra bulk. I could use the camera with the grip without the 8 batteries in. To point out, this has got 8 AA batteries, which is exactly the same as the Nikon F5. But the main difference is, on the Nikon F5, it's built into the camera. On this, and these aren't even fast batteries, so it will go much faster than this. These are just bog standard rechargeable batteries. So yes, loving my free grip that came with the camera, if you didn't realise. Just to show you how it works, there's a really simple kind of like a thumb wheel here, and all you do is wheel it, probably turn it off first, and then we're back to normal. UK shoots with grip, overseas shoots where every gram counts for me, without grip and with a nice lightweight lens. In terms of lenses, what would be my recommended lenses for this camera for my style of thinking? I'd say the 2 lenses which come to mind is obviously the Nikon 1.8 Pancake. There's a few different versions. This is the version with the silver band. This is the version which came with the camera which doesn't have the silver band. Both of these lenses are 50mm 1.8 Pancake lenses, but I have another 50mm 1.8 Pancake coming, hopefully, which I think is a slightly smaller again, slightly better built and focuses even closer. A shout out to the viewer who recommended it to me in a previous video. I since then did some research, managed to find one in Japan, and so hopefully I have that lens coming. If that lens is really good, I'll share it with you guys in a future video and maybe compare the different 51.8 lenses for Nikons, because that then gives you the smallest lens body setup thing you can pretty much get for Nikon SLR cameras. So that will then be my kind of go-to setup. If I'm not using the Nikon 51.8, I could use my Voigtlander 40mm f2 if I want a kind of standard-ish width, or I can use my Voigtlander 20mm f3.5. They're both SL2 lenses. The 20mm is also really compact, and it's really, really sharp. Both of those are good. So yeah, that would be my plan for my SLR super small setup. And so before I finish, let's just give this a bit of a fair test. It's not all like amazingness. Well, it is mostly amazingness. Is that even a word? But let's just compare it to more mainstream cameras. Say this Nikon, what is this? FE2. So maximum shutter speed 1/4000. Maximum shutter speed 1/1000. Maximum flash sync speed 1/250th of a second. Maximum flash sync speed 1/90. So if you're a bright condition strobe shooter, get a Nikon FM2 or FE2, for example, to use a 1/4000 maximum shutter speed if you're shooting without flash, or 1/250 if you're shooting with flash. As I go on about in many videos, it's not that bright in the UK and Europe, so 1/1000 is almost always going to be good enough for me. Again, viewfinder coverage only 92% versus I think 93% in these cameras and 100% in the Nikon F5. And I know many of you have written to me about your F2s and F3s. I'm not quite up to speed on those cameras, but I know they're also said to be obviously excellent. Remember, they're professional level. This is kind of budget level, so there's a bit of a difference. The main thing I think for me to point out is, if you shoot Nikon, I don't need to tell you kind of how to stick eggs, as it were. The reason I'm not scared about buying budget cameras is because, as you all know, it's not the camera that makes the image. It's in film photography, it's the lens plus the film stock. So I could put the same lens and same film stock on my professional level Nikon F5 and the same lens and same film stock in my lowest of the low FG-20, and both of them will give me exactly the same photo. I know the F5 has got matrix metering and blah blah blah, lots of extras, but because I don't use any of those and I'm just shooting manual mode on both cameras, normally in black and white, that this will give me exactly the same photo as the F5 for kind of probably a quarter of the size. Probably slight exaggeration, but it's a lot lighter. Probably maybe a quarter of the weight. Maybe I'll note it above if I get a chance. So they're the cons: slower maximum shutter speed, slower maximum flash sync speed, less viewfinder coverage. And I guess for you auto shooters, no program mode, no auto exposure, things like that. Another thing I guess to note is one advantage of the Nikon F5 is you can use it with the Nikon G lenses, such as this Nikon 51.8G. You can't use G lenses on this camera. So that's why I have this camera, and you'll see that camera in a future video. If you've not yet subscribed, feel free to subscribe, because that camera is coming along with at least 2 more other Nikon film cameras. And then we'll get onto lenses as well. So they're the negatives. Sorry, I keep getting off on tangents. What are the positives? I'll say the positives are the entry-level Nikons. It doesn't matter if it's this one or a similar one. There are many budget-level Nikon cameras. These cameras will give you 90% of the kind of the benefits of the top-of-the-range Nikon cameras. And then the reason I buy them is I buy them because they're smaller and lighter than the pro-level cameras. And then there's one key reason why you want to buy this camera. They are ridiculously cheap. One thing with the cameras of the likes of the FE2, FM3A, and then kind of even more popular cameras like the F5, those types of cameras, they're becoming quite fashionable in the last few years. So obviously with the rebirth almost of film, everyone's starting to get back into film cameras, or have been getting back into film cameras. And so the prices of the cameras are just going up and up. It's across the board. The Leica prices have just gone absolutely ridiculous. The like M prices are just silly. And then even like the Leica 3 cameras, the ones I've been playing with this year and last year, even those are starting to go up. So everything across the board, the prices are just going up and up. It's really, really difficult now to find a decent camera which you don't have to pay a high price for. So I guess the trick is to find a camera which people don't want. And there are still quite a few cameras out there that people don't want, and so therefore the price is absolutely tiny. I guess a couple of examples would be Soviet rangefinder cameras. Some of the lesser known models you can get for super cheap price, less than £50 GBP, less than $50. And then some of the budget level Nikons, it can be the manual focus budget level cameras like this, or it can be the one that I just showed you, which will come in a future video. Both of these are not desirable cameras by the masses. They're not yet cool. Because they're not yet cool, the prices are rock bottom. I got this camera with motor winder and 2 lenses for I think £60. The average price, you should easily be able to pick up a Nikon FG or FG-20 for less than £50, often with lens, in the UK. And if you live in the US, I looked on the ebay.com website, and you can pick these up for less than $30. There's so many available that the price are just at the lowest. So $30, £40, £50 for a fully functional camera, which should do exactly the same job as a camera costing kind of £200 plus. So what, 4 times cheaper for exactly the same photos? In summary, that is why I bought the Nikon FG-20. If you want the aperture priority program mode, things like that, get the FG, not the FG-20. If you want to use G lenses and say you're a Nikon digital shooter and you're starting to get tempted to go down the film route, wait till the next video, because that camera does use the G lenses, and so you can use that camera body with your existing lenses if you say shoot with only the G series. Don't get this camera, because this camera will not work with your Nikon G series lenses. It will work with most others. The AIS lenses, such as on here, D-mount lenses should work because you can manually focus and they have the aperture scale. So that should all be no problem. Just not the G ones where there's no aperture ring on the lens. So that's it, my rave review of the Nikon FG-20. So there's no photos, but I can include a few Nikon photos just for entertainment purposes, because the photos I'm about to show you will be exactly the same regardless of whether I should use my f4, f5, FM, FM2, FE, FE2 or FG. All of those would take exactly the same photo. So pretend they're taken with the FG-20. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, and if you're into your Nikon stuff and you're not yet subscribed, I know I talk a lot about Leica, but feel free to subscribe because there is more Nikon stuff coming this year, 2021. Someone asked me to stop mentioning the date of my videos when I'm talking about prices, because they were maybe watching one of my earlier videos and the price is now, I don't know, gone up by 25%. So this video is recorded in January 2021, and at this time these cost under £50 with lens, or around $30 with or without lens if you're in the US. The US seems to be cheaper. And I guess the question is, do you also shoot with a budget level Nikon, or what is your favorite Nikon SLR film camera body? I know, as I say from previous videos, I think some of you like a f2 and an f3 or some of the variants, but let me know if you're into your FGs and things like that. Thank you for watching, and big thanks to my patrons. We're nearly at 100, so we're doing really well. See you back here soon for the next video. Bye.